Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Chris with Getaway Game Sports. Welcome. So, as we all know, when there's a part one to the Dodgers, there's a part two because of the Giants, baby. Let's go. So, this is kind of off my last podcast. This is an extension. I like to try and stay under 20 minutes, and I didn't last time because I am long winded. But the story gets even better, okay? Now, don't get me wrong, Stan Kasten is the genius behind the Dodgers, okay? Do we all understand this? There is no ifs, ands, or buts. He is an absolute genius, has been one since, 1979, when he was part of the Atlanta Hawks, right? Now, now, I didn't really give my Giants enough kudos, and because I wanted to do this separately, okay? So here we go. All right. So remember how I told you guys I talked to Bruce Bochy on the phone. He called me up, the only manager, because I didn't know who to send information to at the time, to actually call me back. This is why I have mad respect for this gentleman, okay? Now, when he called me, we had a great, I don't know, like 20-minute conversation. And he said that I'd be getting a call from somebody else within the Giants organization. I'm like, all right, cool. Now, at the time, I was actually on a football field because I was a first responder and I was helping out basically an organization. They needed an EMT because they only took EMTs for their medical stuff to make sure their players stayed fine. So that was on the football field. And it got real loud because a touchdown was scored. So I couldn't hear the name of the person that was going to be calling me. So I was like, all right, no big deal. I'll wait and see what happens. So I want to say it was about 2 weeks later. I had just gotten to the hospital on my ambulance, and we had just dropped a patient off into the ER. And lo and behold, I get this phone call. And it pops up, San Francisco Giants, Bobby Evans. And I'm like, is this really happening? So for those of you who don't know, Bobby Evans was at the time the assistant GM for the San Francisco Giants behind Brian Sabian. Okay? Now to me, this is crazy because I'm sitting here going, did this really just happen? No, yeah, whoa. So I answer the phone. Bobby Evans goes, hey, how's it going? I go, I'm doing great, thank you for calling, so on and so forth. And he goes, well, so I get a call from Bochy and he says that I should probably call you, touch base in regards to, because at the time I wanted to coach. He goes, in regards to coaching with the Giants. And so I'm like, okay. Yeah. And of course, I'm sitting here just kind of dumbfounded. And I do that well, by the way. All right. And so I'm kind of, a lot of it, I don't hear what he's saying just due to the fact that I'm in such shock that Bobby Evans, the assistant GM for the Giants, is calling me. So I'm pretty, a big dork. Let's just be honest. And so he goes, hey, let's set up a meeting. Let's have a meeting and go from there. So I'm like, all right, that sounds cool. When would you like to do it? It was like 2-3 weeks later, and the Giants were just finishing, 2 weeks later, because the Giants were just finishing a homestand. And he goes, why don't we do that? I know how busy you are, so on and so on. I'm like, great, hey, thank you. So I get all dressed up, get a suit, and, get a tie and all that kind of good stuff. And I drive down to San Francisco, and I'm sitting there and I go in because I'm early like I am for everything, right? Well, almost everything. And They go, you're going to have to wait. Give it a few minutes. I go, I'm sorry, I'm just early. That's just me. Not a problem. So I go in, I leave, I go get a cup of coffee, I come back, and they're, oh, yeah, we'll get them. Just hold on a minute, have a seat. And the Giants have some great security, real nice people, their front office. Those guys have to deal with a lot being down in San Francisco. Now, with all this being said, I go upstairs. You go upstairs into this office that's huge. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's numerous cubicles and a lot of things that are going on up there, all right? And you're kind of like, wow, this is amazing. Just because you start to see how everything works. They got the Giants memorabilia on the wall. They've got everything Giants. They got everything from Willie Mays to Barry Bonds to Willie McCovey to John Monfusco to the Giants' first World Championship. If I'm not mistaken, yes, that was the first one because that's where I learned a lot. And so I'm sitting there going, all right, this is cool. And so I'm just kind of sitting there and all looking and going, wow. And what was amazing about that part is you really realize that the atmosphere is very family, okay? And I know you're sitting here going, well, this is a major league organization, it's a business, it's so on and so forth. But walking in those doors, as kind as the people were, everybody seemed to say hi, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? So on and so forth. So we go in, and I'm thinking we're just going to go into a conference room, a little lunchroom, go ahead and sit down and have a meeting. Well, Bobby takes me into his office, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, wow, this is cool. And he's got, which is nice to see. He's got stacks of paper, reports, stats on players, so on and so forth. And no, I didn't read them. I just happened to see it because I set my bag down. All right, wasn't trying to be rude. And so he asked what I want to do. And I'm like, well, in a perfect world, I would like to be a coach. And the minor leagues kind of go from there and see what happens. He goes, well, right now we kind of have our coaches situated and set up for whatever year it was that we were in. I can't remember if it was 2011 at this point or 2012. So excuse me on that, all right, everybody? Now, the interview that I had, I'm thinking I'll be in and out in 20 minutes, right? No. I had almost a 2.5 hour interview with Bobby Evans. And have you ever been in one of those interviews where you literally do not feel like you're in an interview and you're talking with one of your buddies, just learning about something about what they had going on that day? Well, that's what it felt like. And I totally was absolutely respected by Bobby Evans, okay? So lo and behold, Bobby's like, hey, right now we really don't have anything. Just want to let you know that. Wanted to give you the courtesy because Bochy asked me to. And I don't think that I have ever had as much respect for, because the Giants are a business, but an organization, a business that I had at that moment in time. Okay? Because he spent an hour and a half, 2 hours with me just BS, and we talked baseball, we talked minor leagues, we talked stats, we talked a few other things, but one thing I'm not going to talk about in regards, because I'm not sure if I'm allowed to, so I'm going to keep it at that. Now, I know it's almost 15 years ago or so, but still, just respect, that's all. Now, I'm getting ready to take off and leave, and he introduces me to a young gentleman, and dang it, I can't remember his name. So him and I start talking, and he was like an assistant to the director of scouting, okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm just here for a couple weeks. I go back home. I'm doing blah, blah, blah. And I was like, man, that's amazing. He goes, yeah. And he kind of, now through this whole process, I need you to all understand. Bobby Evans was actually trying to talk me out of becoming a coach scout just due to the fact that you do not spend much time with your family. Okay? And looking back now, I was stubborn and I didn't realize how and what and who, and because my eyes were just, just amazed at the time. And looking back now, I look back and I go, I absolutely understand why he was saying it, how he was saying it, and the reason why he was saying it. Now, for those of you that don't know, I have 3 children, 3 daughters, and at the time they were relatively young, all under high school age. Okay? So looking at that, that was another thing that we talked about, Bobby and I, was about family. So when he introduced me to this gentleman, he was a young kid, probably 25, 26, really smart, really good at picking up baseball, picking up little trends and so on and so forth. We talked about what he did. And he played ball, but due to injury, he couldn't move on, so on and so forth. Okay, like 90% of us. Now, one of the things that I learned from my interview with Bobby Evans, my meeting with Bobby Evans, is this. When they're trying to teach you something and you realize it, but you don't realize it till later, you don't realize how valuable that truly is. Okay? Sometimes you got to take a step back to understand what is truly going on before you can sit there and go, oh my God, you're right. Why didn't I think of that? Or why didn't I just do that to understand that? You all understand. You've all had that moment. You totally get it. Okay? So, I am done with the interview and it went really good. Now, don't get me wrong. I didn't get the job. Didn't get anything at that time with the Giants organization because they were busy. They were slammed. They were done. They were going through a bunch of other little things. And I learned something. This is huge. What you guys don't know is this. Being a bird dog, which I called it because that's what the old term was, and being an associate scout are the same thing, for those of you that don't know. The MLB and our wonderful federal government decided that an associate scout could no longer volunteer their time, basically. So at that point in time, they were actually actually all across the MLB, they were doing major cutbacks, okay? Now, this I didn't know because that's something that just wasn't common knowledge. And, that's just the way it is, right? Cutbacks are cutbacks and you go from there. All right, so time to move on. The next step, all right? So one of the last things that Bobby said was, hey, if you're here, if you're at a game, hey, let's meet, let's chat, let's say hi if I'm not too busy. So I don't know how long it was. I think it was actually the following season, if I'm not mistaken, early in the season. Took the whole family to a Giants game. And it was Giants versus Washington Nationals, and we had really good seats. I got lucky and got it up front for $50 because it was all last minute stuff. And I actually still had Bobby Evans' number. I actually still have it to today. And I text him, hey, Bobby, I'm going to be in town. This is Chris, so on and so forth. You may not remember. And he's like, no, I remember you. We had that great meeting. I'm like, yeah. He goes, hey, if I got a chance, I'll come down and meet you. Just let me know where you guys are sitting, and we'll go from there. So I text him, we get there, and he's like, hey, I can't meet right now. I'm in the middle of stuff. what I didn't realize was I think they're in the middle of possibly doing a few minor league trades because a couple of days later there were some trades that came up and my daughter's like, hey, this is what happened and why he was so busy. So I thought that was kind of cute and funny. But we're downstairs in the tunnel because that's where our seats were. We're downstairs in the tunnel and he comes down. He's like, hey, Chris, how are you doing? I introduced him to my family and it was like, it was total family. Like we hadn't seen each other in years, and it was a complete and phenomenal impression, not only for me to see that this man still remembered who I was and still treated me like I was an unbelievable person. Okay? Now, I leave, I go, and I'm getting ready to go. This is a few months later down the road, okay? And I'm getting ready to go to the Dominican Republic and do some coaching down there in the USALABC with my boy Jim Parquet, who's out of Big League Edge up in Kent, Washington. If you haven't been to that facility or you don't know that facility, oh my God, is it phenomenal. And this is what I'm going to recommend. If you get an opportunity to work out at Big League Edge, if you're up in the Pacific Northwest, do it. Do it, do it, do it. They got some of the best coaches. I actually call them developers because that's what they do is they develop ball players. And Jim has a unique way of coaching and it's unbelievable. But anyway, let me get back on track. Coaching in the USALABC, I went for 8 years. I was fortunate enough to have some phenomenal ball players that actually took 4 of 8 years that I was there. The other years, we couldn't get it done. They have some great ball players down in the DR. As you know, what is it, 36% of MLB athletes actually come from this small little island. Think about that. And I'll tell you a story on that another time, okay? So, I'm on a flight. I bumped up to first class, got lucky. Let me tell you, I got real lucky. And I'm sitting there and I'm going from Miami to the DR, Santo Domingo, okay? And I see this World Series ring and I'm like, hey, that's a Giants World Series ring. And then in my divine wisdom, I go, holy moly, I know exactly who this is. And my mind started going, and I'm like, I go, are you John Barr by any chance? Because I'm sitting right next to him and we're kind of just BSing. He goes, yeah, I am. How'd you know? I go, I'm a diehard Giants fan. I've actually followed the minor leagues, so on and so forth. And I tried to get into coaching and then into scouting. Please understand, I had gone to my second winter league meetings already, so that was fun. Baseball, MLB winter league, blah blah blah. Okay. And he's like, oh, all right, okay, cool. And so I told him my story about meeting with Bobby Evans. He goes, oh man, he's a great guy, completely down to earth. And I go, yeah, he was. He was truly a nice guy. And we had a great conversation. And I told him how he talked to me for almost 2 hours. And he goes, yeah, that's Bobby. And so, which I thought was cool. All right. So we're on this flight and we're talking and kind of looking at the ring and I'm thinking, man, that's pretty cool. And he goes, you want to try it on? Are you kidding? You know, I'm like, is a Japanese nickname Haikyuu? Or wait a minute. Wait, hold on. Stand by. Is a Japanese poet's nickname Haikyuu? There we go. All right. Couldn't spit that out, could I? And so we got a good chuckle out of that. And so I try it on, and it's a little bit heavier than I thought. And I'm going, all right, I got to give this back because if I drop it, I'm going to freaking freak out. And so we got a good chuckle out of that. And he goes, so what are you doing? And I go, well, at this time, I think I was doing a very little bit of bird dogging with the Tigers, an associate scout. but it was kind of more of a learning process than anything, which was awesome. Um, and I did that for 3 years. Had a great time doing that. Learned so much. Um, yeah, learned a lot. Okay, so anyway, back on track. We're almost over and done here. Now, Mr. Barr and I talked for about 2.5, 3 hours on this flight. We ate, talked, had a few pops, and as we're talking, he truly was a sincere man. Talked a little bit of baseball, talked about idiosyncrasies, talked about best things to look for in a player. I mean, you talk about education. I got a huge education. And something that was really big that it didn't throw me off, but it did, was that Mr. Barr tried to talk me out of being a scout, being a coach, so on and so forth at that level. And I was kind of thrown back on why he would do that. And then, kind of like what I said about Bobby, you realize it after the fact because you're pulling everything together and go from there. All right. Now, he talked about how family was important. We had a really good conversation in regards to how family is important and being with them. Baseball takes away, actually all major league sports, all pro sports take away from family. That's why they try to become their own family as well. All right. And it's not easy being a professional athlete, regardless if it's baseball, football, basketball, soccer, softball now, so on and so forth. Do we all in hockey, so on and so forth. And the lesson that I learned in this whole process was this. Once you get there, once you do it, it's not easy. It consumes your life. And when I mean consumes your life, it truly consumes your life. There's chances you'll miss birthdays. There's chances you will miss holidays. There's chances you will miss so much because that organization comes first. Okay? And I think this was one of the main reasons why I only did it for 3 years, because I consider myself a family man, and I don't like missing birthdays, don't like missing holidays with the family, so on and so forth, okay? Understand, it is a commitment, and it is a huge commitment to be a scout. If you choose to go in that direction, and you are chosen, which is a very big part, you are a lucky person, and understand this. It could be one of the best decisions of your life, and it could be one of the worst. Okay? For me, it was a great decision until it wasn't, and it was time for me to move on. All right? To end with John Barr, his last words to me were, remember, your family comes first, then sports. And I was like, man. And this gentleman was the director of minor league baseball for the San Francisco Giants. If you don't know who John Barr is, he's a special assistant to Buster Posey right now. Okay? Great man, great gentleman. And folks, this is why the Giants are actually truly the best organization in baseball. Do you understand me? Stan Kasten might be one of the best executives in baseball, one of the geniuses, but the Giants are the absolute best organization in baseball. So I leave you with this. Thank you for checking out my show. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to have a list of the crew somewhere. I'm also going to give a shout out to Para-travelers. Hey, let me get you anywhere you want to go around the world. Can't forget our sponsors. I'm working on a new sponsor. Hopefully that meeting happens soon. Um, the Liquid Nitro and I are no longer a sponsor, but give them a final shout out. But you guys have a great second day of the World Series. Dodgers lost yesterday 11-4, by the way, but it is a 7-game series for a reason, so we'll see what happens. Again, thank you, and thank you very much, and thank you, because I want to thank you. I think I'll leave it at that. Too many thank yous, probably, but hey, I appreciate you and I appreciate what you all do to help me out and help out the crew, and we'll go from there. All right. Ciao.